All right, so we had a bit of an incident on the trail this weekend with the Honda. Got into a deep mud hole. I've gone through this hole several times. I usually have to get pulled out, but figured I'd give it another go for some reason. I knew I shouldn't have. Why am I doing this? And I got into it and it shut off on me. Usually if it shuts off, it fires right back up. But it's the first time it's ever not just fired right back up.
You want me to go around and pull you out?
Yeah, it's probably a good idea. This time, going to fire it back up, it's cranking over, and not firing up. We started to try and lift the back end a little bit. It's fucked now, it's got water in it. We'll pull it out, we'll tilt it up, crank it over a couple times. I thought maybe if we get the exhaust up out of the water, we wouldn't have a chance of anything going down the exhaust into it. But I think that just made it worse, and it just shot water down the exhaust and into the cylinder. Immediately pulled it out, got to a tree, strung it up the tree. And got the water out of the exhaust, pulled the plug. You know what? My spark plug's cracked.
Really?
The insulator's cracked all the way down on it. Cranked it over. Blew the water out. Checked the oil level. Oil level was exactly to the top of the fill point where I left it. No mixing in the oil at all. That oil is crystal clear. It's kind of hard to see. There's no moisture in that at all. Oil level's perfect. So let's see how it ended up after all that. I got it fired up. I made the call to drive it home. We weren't far from home. Knowing there was no water that made it into the crankcase, I was pretty confident it'd be okay. So we got a little bit of water down in the very bottom of the box. That's not abnormal for me to pull that open and see that in there. Definitely not enough. Oh, there we go. It would have got sucked up the intake, so that's good. Now I'm going to drain this oil, but I want a nice, clean, new piece of Tupperware from the kitchen, so we can see exactly what we're getting out of this. No contamination from an old oil change or anything. Let's see what we get. There might just be a little in there. Well, it's not excellent news. There are very, very small bits. Very small amount of sand. Just a bit in here that I really didn't want to see. I mean, it's barely anything. But I mean, the filter's doing its job, thank God, but this did have to go through the oil pump to get here, so I'm still optimistic. Well, I've definitely seen better. Don't worry about the stick in there. That just came out of my foot. Well, a bunch of other garbage fell in there too. But yeah, not the best. Definitely not the worst. But I'm not too excited about that. Alright, got the new filter in, the new plug in, fired right up, sounds good. There really wasn't much in the bottom of that air box. bit, and we'll change it again just to be safe. All right, so last night we drained the oil for the first time on this Honda, and I left it out in this pan just to see how it's separated and what it looks like. Now, this is the first drain, and it's not looking great. You can tell there's had a bit of water mixed in with that oil, and now that it's sat overnight, you can actually see the separation line of how much mixed in. There's that thin layer on top of water. That's not the worst thing I've ever seen, but that is definitely not good. So I drained it again today, second drain, and this is looking a lot better. I let it run for maybe 15-20 minutes while I was washing the whole machine up last night. Came back in today, drained it. I got no cloudiness in it at all. It's a little dark, but it was due for an oil change. I don't really have a line of separation on it after it's been sitting for a while. But then again, ideally, this is brand new clean oil, just for the sake of comparison. My filter looked nice and clean today, nothing else in it. So we're gonna see how it goes. I'm doing all the diffs while I'm in here. I did have a little bit of water in my front diff, to be expected. The back one is nice and clean though. We're gonna run it a bit more. I'll probably take another sample after this and probably change it one more time. All right, so it's the following week. We did 2 oil changes on the Honda, and then we took it for a little ride, maybe 40 minutes or so. I just wanted to change oil one more time, just so I can sleep at night and make sure there's no other water in it. So here's the final oil change and what we got. So it's nice and clean. There's no milkiness to it. There's no more water in it. I'm really happy with that. So yeah, it looks like it's gonna survive just fine. But yeah, this whole thing got me thinking about, what are you supposed to do when your exhaust is underwater, your machine shuts off? So I've been thinking about it a bit, and I kind of came up with a little experiment to do. It's pretty interesting. Check it out in my next video, and we'll see what happens. Probably not a good idea.